Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name is Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in eastern Nebraska, where a body found in Platte County is believed to be that of a missing person. The Platte County Sheriff's Office says deputies responded to a call of possible human remains Tuesday evening. Authorities investigated the scene and say they found what they believe is the body of 37-year-old Jake Antonio Clark, who went missing more than 3 months ago. Law enforcement say they found Clark's abandoned car back in December, about 13 miles southwest of Columbus. The body was located along Prairie Creek, 2 miles southeast of where the car had been abandoned. A major roadblock formed early Thursday after a train and vehicle collided in Norfolk. The incident stopped a train right by the Orphan Grain Train building, blocking traffic at multiple intersections downtown. The train was able to get moving again about 8:20 a.m. Traffic began flowing at that point. No word yet on any injuries. Well, the primary elections about a month away, and voting in Nebraska will look a little different for the first time. Ryan Valenta tells us more about the new voter ID laws and what you need to know.
In 2023, the Nebraska legislature passed a bill to require all Nebraska voters to show a photo ID when voting in elections. Come next month will be the first time that Nebraskans will go through this new process. From now until then, the issue will be making sure everyone has a valid form of Nebraska photo ID, which has seen some hiccups for some certain demographics.
You know, when you're 90 years old, a lot of them do not have their driver's license anymore.
A driver's license is the most common way of showing a photo identification of yourself when needed in certain situations. But like you heard Rhonda Colbert with the Kensington Assisted Living Center say, not everyone has one. Another of many organizations spreading the word to people this may affect is the AARP, which engages with people over the age of 50.
I think people who are on the older end of the scale are most likely maybe to have given up that driver's license, which is one of the reasons we fought for and we're very pleased that in the list of acceptable forms of IDs, an expired driver's license is also still valid to help you be able to vote.
So if you have an old license sitting around in your dresser, that's just one form of photo ID you can use. Other acceptable forms of ID to use this year are U.S. passports, military or tribal IDs, a political subdivision ID, a Nebraska University ID, or in the case of assisted living homes like the Kensington, medical records of their residents can also be used.
My biggest concern about that was HIPAA laws, how much information can they see on these medical records, So I just copied the face sheet off of the medical records and took it over, and they said that'll work perfectly.
All of that deals with voting in person, but for absentee or mail-in ballots, that will also see a change.
On that form will be a place in order for you to put your driver's license number. Now, if you're using a different form of ID to be able to vote, they ask that you make a copy of that photographic ID and include it in the ballot application when you return it via mail or when you drop it off at your county election office.
If you're someone who doesn't have any form of acceptable ID whatsoever, you can acquire a free state ID from your local DMV as long as you have your birth certificate. If you don't have that certificate, you can get a new one, also free, from the Department of Health and Human Services. This new process may take you some extra time, but the new way to vote is now law.
It was kind of a hassle at first, but once I got to know what I had to do, then it wasn't hard at all. In this little book, it tells you everything you need to get your state ID.
Well, with plenty of acceptable forms of photo ID, if you're wanting to vote, it should still be an easy process to cast your ballot in this year's elections. Reporting for News Channel Nebraska, I'm Ryan Valenta.
Peru State College kicked off its Sexual Assault Awareness Month activities this week with the annual Cats for Consent March. Dan Swanson has the story on this emerging college tradition.
Over 300 turned out for the 4th annual Cats for Consent March at the Peru State College campus, and organizers expect the interest and impact to continue through a month of speakers and activities.
And I've never been at a school that's done something this big, that's had such an open dialogue about it, and it's had so much support.
Resident Assistant Andrew Black Elk spoke prior to the march about the importance of raising awareness about a serious topic and making a community that is able to support survivors.
I don't want them to feel like they're burdening somebody whenever they come to someone for questions, concerns, or if they've been hurt in any way, to just let them know that they're not burdening us. This is what we sign up for. This is what we love to do. And I want to encourage them to step out if they have concerns.
Student Intervention Coordinator Amanda Sharp said 4 years of a decorated campus, the What Were You Wearing art display, and focused dialogue is making an impact.
We have it all over campus. This is all over campus all month long. So the more that they're around this topic, the more they're around the support resources as well. It might make them more aware to talk about their personal experiences or to know if something happens to them, who they can reach out to.
Sharp called the event one of the best days on campus for her. From Peru, I'm Dan Swanson, News Channel Nebraska.
Rural airports, not often thought about, but they can be life-saving during emergencies. That's why one small-town Nebraska airport's getting a facelift. Casey Wannenberg takes us to Gordon, where they're flying high after the government's agreed to pay for the majority of the project.
Pilot Peter Beeson is flying from Kansas City to Kalispell, Montana.
Yep, I'm a flight instructor and commercial pilot.
But he decided to make a quick stop for gas in the middle of cattle country, Gordon, Nebraska.
I don't know where my last stop was, York. And in between here and York, there's not much, so it's nice to have options.
An airport option that will soon be getting a facelift. The city has approved almost $340,000 to replace and add runway end identifier and PAPI lights.
And basically it tells the pilot you're either too high or you're too low. You could taxi it and see what.
City Manager Glenn Spa says this airport can literally be life-saving. Gordon has the only critical access hospital in Sheridan County, and it flies out around 10 patients a month.
That's the primary concern. The other one would be the farmers and ranchers, and there's a lot of planes stationed on farms around here. The purpose for that is they can fly in, get parts or whatever they need, or if they come to cattle sales or whatever it might be. Flying is the way to go sometimes.
Because of the need, the FAA has agreed to fund 90% of the project.
There's some gaps that are maybe this.
A project that will not only benefit patients with life-threatening conditions, but also pilots like Beeson flying across the country.
Place to stop and get out of the weather if you need to get out of the weather, get fuel if you need fuel, and yeah, I'd say it's super important.
An important service that will be flying higher thanks to these improvements. In Gordon, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
Recent labor and savings data is raising concerns of a looming retirement crisis. Many Americans reportedly struggling to save. New bank rate data shows just 44% of U.S. adults could afford to pay an emergency expense of $1,000 or more using their savings. Michael Yoshida has more.
The number of U.S. workers in the labor market over the age of 75 is expected to nearly double over the next decade, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics.
People don't always do what's in their best interest, and a lot of people haven't saved enough money for their retirement.
As some struggle to make ends meet, they're tapping into their 401k and retirement plans early, while pension plans have gone nearly extinct and fear over Social Security solvency looms. So what are some things you can do to prepare if your retirement is still far off?
The most important thing to do is to really understand compound interest and realize that a little money now goes much farther than a lot of money later.
Mitchell Krause, founder of Capital Intelligent Associates, says disciplined and consistent savings, even if it's just a little, is critical.
There's your current self, which always wants to go and have fun and eat out and do all sorts of fun things. And there's your future self who's going to want to do that too. But you also don't wake up one day and say, hey, if I just saved a little bit more, did a little bit more things, I'd be in a much better position now.
And for those a little closer to retirement age, it sounds simple, but Krause says,
really take the time and understand your situation. Most people don't have a budget. Most people don't know how much money they have. They don't know how far that will go in retirement. And a little bit of research can either prod you to go a little bit further or put your mind at ease.
I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Projects in Norfolk and North Platte among the big recipients from the state's Civic and Community Center Financing Fund. The Nebraska Department of Economic Development announced 7 grant recipients on Tuesday. The city of Norfolk getting $1.1 million toward its River Point reconstruction project at Johnson Park. North Platte getting over $1 million, meanwhile, for their community recreation complex reconstruction. The DED grants go specifically to projects designed to attract new residents and visitors. Projects in Beatrice, Fremont, McCook, Red Cloud, and Seward also received funds. Well, do you feel like you've been sneezing and rubbing your eyes more often these past couple of weeks? You're not alone. Experts say allergy season started early this year. The culprit? That mild winter, along with highly timely precipitation and high winds so far this spring. The Chief Medical Officer of Nebraska's Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Tim Tesmer, says tree pollen is the big offender during the spring.
Almost sort of been a trifecta of things that have made the pollen counts higher than what they historically have been in the past.
Tesmer's recommending anyone who suffers from symptoms to approach it with a three-pronged attack. Avoid triggers by reducing outdoor time. Use medication for symptoms like runny nose, itchy eyes, and sneezing, and consider allergy testing to identify specific allergens. Tesmer says allergy shots or immunotherapy should be an option if the allergies are severe. And it's been over 40 years, but one Southeast Nebraska FFA chapter back in Lincoln. Jake Bartecki has their story.
For the first time since 1981, Beatrice has sent a team to Lincoln to showcase their skills in Nebraska's biggest industry. The Beatrice FFA chapter is back at the state tournament.
There's multiple alumni from generations ago that come talk to me and say how proud they are of there being a chapter. Some of them bring me their old jackets that they had back in the day.
Colton Husa is the advisor for Beatrice FFA. The state tournament runs Wednesday through Friday with various events at the Sandhills Global Event Center, Pinnacle Bank Arena, and various locations across UNL's campus in Lincoln. Beatrice chapter president Seth Oltmans discussed the importance of his position and how it's helped him in a certain skill set.
It's a leadership position, really. I try to lead by example. I do most of the competitions, but then also in meetings there's public speaking, which actually isn't my strong suit, but I enjoy learning it and
pretty good right
getting
now.
better.
With agriculture being Nebraska's biggest industry, both Husa and senior Parker Witulski say that's what makes FFA so important.
I think it provides an outlet for students and leadership and whatever they want to do. You know, ag, you don't have to be a farmer to be an ag, but most jobs you can somehow relate to ag. So I think it's important for students to know where their food comes from and how they can support that.
First off, it's something different. It's not their classic English, math, science. However, all of that can be contributed into it. There's, of course, science and agriculture. There's, of course, math and agriculture and English and agriculture. And it's a career path that even somebody doesn't have to just go be a farmer or a rancher. They're still tied into agriculture somehow. It's our #1 export. It's our #1 moneymaker in Nebraska, so it's important for people to know.
In Lincoln, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska.
And finally, have you checked your lottery ticket yet? Well, there was no jackpot winner in the Powerball drawing Wednesday night, but if you missed it, the winning numbers were 11, 38, 41, 62, 65 with the Powerball 15. The jackpot now goes up to an estimated $1.23 billion. The next Powerball drawing is Saturday night. And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X. Like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.